Hi guys, welcome to lesson 16-2, classify quadrilaterals. Your I can statement that you need to write down is I can classify quadrilaterals by their properties. A few other things that I want you to write down below your I can statement is that all the angles in a quadrilateral, oh, I gotta get my pen, I thought I had it. All the angles, I'm gonna abbreviate here, all the angles in a quadrilateral equal 360 degrees. Now, the reason for that is we just learned that all the angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees. Well, if we think about a quadrilateral, it's a polygon with 4 sides. So if I had a rectangle and I split that in half with a diagonal line, you will see that quadrilaterals are made from 2 triangles. So 180 degrees of this triangle plus 180 degrees of that triangle gives us a total of 360 degrees for all the angles in a quadrilateral. That's important, especially when we get to the part of finding the missing angle degree. You're going to need to know that. So go ahead and push pause and write that additional information and then push play when you're ready. Okay guys, just like the classifying triangles, I'm going to have you write the definition down next to the word and the picture that you draw. And that's important to me because I am a firm believer in if you write it, if you read it, and then read it again, it's going to help you remember. So as we see here, a square is going to be, and here's the exact definition, so write it down, a rectangle with all congruent sides. So that's what I want you to write down for the definition of a square. A rectangle with all congruent sides. The next one that I want you to write is rhombus, and go ahead and write that down as a rhombus. And a rhombus is a parallelogram with all congruent sides. That means all of these sides are going to be congruent. So for a rhombus, I want you to write the definition, is a parallelogram with all congruent sides. The next one that we have, and push pause and then push play again whenever you need to kind of stop and get caught up. Then we have a rectangle, and a rectangle is a parallelogram with 4 right angles. That is the exact definition of a rectangle. A parallelogram with 4 right angles. So just like I said, go ahead and push pause, and when you've got the word, the picture, and the definition wrote down, push play. Okay, here on this page, we have a parallelogram. And for those of you that were thinking, what is a parallelogram? She keeps writing that down. Well, a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel lines. It is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel lines, opposite and congruent. It's a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel lines that are opposite and congruent. So congruent means the same. That means this line and this line are parallel, and also congruent. And this line are parallel and also congruent. And the next word is a trapezoid, and it does just that. In a trapezoid, you get trapped in the zoid, because if you extend these lines, they are going to intersect. And that's just it with a trapezoid. It only has one pair of parallel lines. So just from this definition, the trapezoid is kind of all by itself because it doesn't have two pairs of parallel lines that are opposite and congruent, like the parallelogram, like the rectangle, like the square, and like the rhombus. Those are all parallelograms, but the trapezoid is just by itself because it only has one pair of parallel lines. And the pair of parallel lines are right there. Okay, now we're going to go to the story problem. Now, this is pretty easy. It's multi-step. It's going to tell us what to do. First part says, draw any length line segment. A line segment is a straight line with two endpoints. So this is a line segment. Here's my straight line, and it's got two endpoints. That's what you call a line segment. Then that line segment can go in any direction. I chose to go vertical, which means up and down. Must be straight. Well, it's a little, tries to be straight. We need to draw another line segment of any length that is parallel to the first one. So parallel is like a railroad track. They're never going to cross. So I'm going to draw my parallel line right here. It even looks congruent, opposite sides congruent. Then it says to connect the ends of each line segment with the line segments to make a closed four-sided figure, which is a polygon. A polygon is any four-sided shape made up of line segments and vertices. So that is mine. And then it says, what does your shape look like? Can you classify it? And discuss your ideas with a partner. So what does it look like? Can you classify it? So this looks to me like a rectangle. Okay. And a rectangle is a parallelogram with four right angles. So why is it a parallelogram? Because it has two pairs of parallel lines that are opposite of each other and congruent. So I am going to say it's a rectangle, and I'm going to classify it as a rectangle. See Terrence's work. We have here a trapezoid. It says my shape looks like a trapezoid. And it is a trapezoid because it has one pair of parallel lines. And if we extend these lines, you're going to get trapped in the zoid. Leslie's work. He created, it looks like a rhombus. It says, I made a rhombus. And it is a rhombus because all sides are congruent. And a rhombus is also a parallelogram because it has two pairs of opposite sides that are parallel and congruent. But he did draw a rhombus because it has two pairs of parallel sides. They're all congruent. Okay, now for the summary. Now what I want you guys to do for the summary today is I actually just want you to draw what I'm drawing. I'm going to kind of help you classify quadrilaterals so it makes sense. And I do it every year. So I first want you to kind of draw an umbrella here, and then here is our handle. Now on this side of the umbrella, we are just going to have a trapezoid all by itself. And then on the other side of the umbrella, we are going to have, that's a parallelogram. I don't know what's going on with my pen, but we have a parallelogram. And then underneath the parallelogram, we are going to have a rectangle, and we are going to have a rhombus, and then we are going to have a square. Now, Reason for this is this drawing lets you know that a trapezoid is a trapezoid and a quadrilateral. So we're going up. A square is a rhombus, a rectangle, it's a parallelogram, and it's also a quadrilateral. Now, why is that? Because of the definitions. So a square is a rectangle with all congruent sides. Therefore, it has to be a rectangle. A square is a rhombus because a rhombus is a parallelogram with all congruent sides. Well, isn't that what a square is? A parallelogram with all congruent sides? And a square is a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel lines, opposite and congruent. And it's a quadrilateral because it has four sides. So this diagram helps you classify and name the shapes because quadrilaterals can have more than one name, especially if it's a type of parallelogram. A rectangle is a parallelogram and a quadrilateral. A rhombus is a parallelogram and a quadrilateral. Now here's the question. Can a rhombus be a square? If you're thinking no, you are correct. Because a rhombus doesn't have four right angles. So a rhombus can never be a square. Can a rectangle be a square? If you're thinking yes, you are correct. Because the definition of a square is a rectangle with four right angles. So draw that umbrella on your paper because we're really going to be referring to that a lot to kind of help you problem solve and think through all the different ways to classify quadrilaterals. Your keyword for today is icy.